Are we live? I think we are. It looks like we are. Okie doke. Welcome. I'm just working today. It's not gonna be, I don't have any stories to tell. I mean, I do have some things I can complain about, if that's what you want. I know the internet loves complaining. Y'all want to hear my complaints? I'll say this. Webtoon just recently launched a new system that could be helpful to the platform as a whole, right? Um, they're clearly trying to help Canvas creators, and I guess also their originals creators like make more money on the platform. And honestly, doing something they should have done a long, long time ago, but I don't know, for whatever reason they move at the pace of snail on anything that makes sense. And basically, like they have this super likes program, right? And as far as I understand, they don't actually do that great of a job explaining what the hell the super likes program is, because they make it sound like the super chat on YouTube, but then as I was reading, I was like, wait, is it a super chat thing, or is it like a Patreon thing? Like, is it a subscription? Is this like they don't really define what it is? Like, it's actually very confusing when you read the description because it's like, what is this thing, right? Like, I don't even know. So anyway, at least they're trying something. For the love of God, they're trying something. I mean, I they have all these readers that I think would love to support creators on the platform, but like they for some reason cannot get themselves to pull the trigger on like getting money to move between readers and creators. I don't like y'all are a business, right? Like that's what y'all are supposed to do theoretically is like generate revenue for yourselves as a business. I'm not even that big of a fan of business, but I'm just like, this is the mission you've taken upon yourself. Like, presumably, you want to do that in a competent way, right? So, anyway, I'm like, okay, cool. I'll sign up for it. I go to my dashboard and, like, there's, no, there's nothing there. There's nothing to apply for. They're like, hey, you can apply now. And then I go to apply and there's nothing to apply for. And so, I'm writing an email to them and I'm just like, okay, well, I hope this isn't some signal of things to come where just like Webtoon's not really, I honestly, at this point, I'm almost of this thought of like, if for some reason Webtoon was just like, we just don't want you to make money on our platform, I would kind of be like, all right, fine. I don't think I care anymore. Like, I just don't care anymore. I enjoy publishing comics. I'll figure out some way to do it with or without y'all. Um, and this is part of my frustration too, is like Webtoon is probably the most successful platform I've ever published anything on. Not that it has to be the only, right? There can be others, but I'm just like, I like the overall platform itself. I've like been able to meet a lot of cool people on it. I've been able to build an audience on it. Like I've been able to do things on the Webtoon platform that I haven't been able to do otherwise on the internet. Like like my my Twitter, the X, whatever you want to call it. Like it doesn't really grow. My Instagram, like people kind of interact with it, but Instagram is like messed up. Like you can't just like post an image like a sane person. You have to like modify it to fit the Instagram uh, format just because. Just because. Like, there's literally no reason for it. There's zero reason for it. It's just like company policy on that thing is like, well, we just want to make it more complicated because we're bored. We don't have anything better to do than to like make everybody's lives complicated. I'm sorry if this is not what y'all want to like hear me talk about coming right out of the gate, but well, anyway. So, in the back of my head, I'm just like, sooner or later, I don't know, like I'm just like, all these social media outlets are gonna have to give for me if they don't like do much, right? Like Instagram, I do actually have conversations with people. Like people will regularly DM me on Instagram just to talk about like Trailer Park Warlock and like, you know, um, or if they wanted to like order like tarot decks or something and they didn't get a chance to get tarot decks, things like that, which is cool, right? Like I'm probably gonna keep Instagram, but like my X account, I don't. It's not. It just doesn't do a whole lot. Like people don't interact that much. It's just quiet, and like whatever. Like X, Twitter, whatever works great for some people and doesn't work great for everybody. I don't care. I really don't care. Like that's part of the issue for me is like I don't care, but I do kind of care about Webtoon because I am growing an audience on my Webtoon profile. Like, it's not gangbusters or anything, but holy crap, like compared to everything else, it's just like exponential, you know? Um, so I'm still attached to my Webtoon profile. Maybe I shouldn't. Maybe the Taoist in me is like, well, Matt, you should detach and just let go and let whatever be will be. And you will find some solution that doesn't have to be this particular solution. To which, my inner Taoist, to him I say, or her, I don't know. I don't know who this person is. Mysterious. Mysterious and whimsical, like the Tao. Um, but to this person I would say, well, yeah, but what? Like, I can't just live off of, spinach farts and whatever. I don't. What would you have me do? You know. So anyway, going back to sort of my original point here. I mean, I can't even like all I have is like facial gestures. I can't even properly communicate. Like I can't even properly communicate my frustration. And maybe that's why, like, maybe that's the reason why I can't get into the Super Likes program is like all I do is complain about Webtoon. I don't know. I really don't. Um, some part of me is going like, well, maybe it's a blessing in disguise if I can't get into it. Like, maybe I'll just have to find some other solution. But, nevertheless, I am, going like, okay, I know I have readers who support me and want to, like, see me do well. Like, why does Webtoon not want that, right? So anyway, I'm spending way too much time on this topic. My point is, I'm annoyed today, which happens, right? That happens to all of us. You have these chaotic fluctuations, you know, in the comings and goings of life. And you have to like find that place where you can just kind of laugh at it. Like I can't really 100% laugh at it today because I'm going into these weird sort of spirals of self-doubt or like even like basically like paranoia, right? Where it's just like, oh, maybe Webtoon is like blocking me from this because this or that, and it's just like I have no information. Is probably what it probably is, to be totally honest, what it probably is because I am an originals creator for Trailer Park Warlock. They probably have some weird accounting thing where they're just like, well, we didn't have you at it because you're technically an originals creator, but we know you're not an originals creator anymore, but we separate them out and all this other yada yada stuff, right? Like just some dumb, annoying Byzantine like, oops, sorry, we had an accident and this happened, right? But living in the age of the internet, it's very easy to kind of go into spinning out territory, right? Where you go, this is an attack on me. This is an attack on my people. Like, how could they do this to me? And that's probably not what's going on. So, anyway, I'm working on Legend of Redneck, moving myself away from sort of like this weird spiraling out energy, trying to figure out like what is Loretta's roommate, who I do not actually have a name for yet. And let me actually show you what I'm working on. I just realized, I'm sorry, y'all. This is me today. This is my vibe. I'm so sorry. Y'all just like watching me kvetch. Anyway, I'm trying to figure out. Oh, that's not what I want. I'm trying to figure out something, that's for sure. I'm trying to figure out, like, what the hell Loretta's roommate's going to be saying in this panel. Because originally it was like, Verb ask, I thought it was Reggie. Who's Reggie? I'll show you real quick. Reggie is this character right here, who I'm going to work on in a second. And he's based on, or he is a loose reference. I say loose, it's not really loose. He's a reference to a character in a story that I've created called Garage Raja, which I co-wrote with my friend Austin Price many, many years ago. And in Garage Raja, his name is Reginald Jenkins. I don't know why we stuck with that, because like writing out Reginald in a word balloon, like handwriting Reginald in a word balloon is like a nightmare. But you know, that was my younger creative self wanting a challenge, I suppose. Justin Gillespie says, I'm sorry, buddy. Corporate overlords and their condescension. I'm going to try and reread this again. Corporate overlords and their condescension be rough. We love your work. Gotta just let the bureaucratic bull roll off, even if it can be hard. And, food's ready? Maybe so. You know what I was thinking about and what I'm going with. Originally, I was like, something like, oh, hey, Loretta, I made tacos tonight. But then I was like, maybe it'd be funnier if it was like scrambled eggs or something like that, or pancakes, because it's like clearly he's totally botched it. And thank you, Justin. I appreciate the consolation as I deal with what may or may not even be an issue, but just an annoyance. But yeah, I'm thinking something to that effect of like, oh hey, I was thinking of doing dinner for breakfast or breakfast for dinner tonight. Something to that effect. Just like so this, like I was saying, the orc character, I don't have a name for him yet. He needs a name. Even though it may never even, like, he may never even be referenced by name in this comic ever. And I'm willing to accept offers here. If y'all have any names for him, let me know. Because I actually really don't. Like, usually with characters, I have, like, a name pretty immediately. But, like, this guy, I don't. Like, and, like, for me, part of the humor while writing him has been like he's just a totally nameless roommate that Loretta has. Because in my mind, I'm like, it'd be kind of funny if Loretta didn't even know his name. And maybe I should just keep it that way. Like, maybe that should just be the humor of that. Of like, they've known each other for at least like a couple of years, and she still doesn't know his name because that's Loretta. But Justin Gillespie says, I do love flambe for dinner. Maybe, buddy. Like, just not knowing the name, he's just referred to as like buddy, bro, fam, what have you. That is pretty good. That is pretty good. And that would actually line up with kind of another rolling joke I want to extend upon regarding like Hizzard and uh, some of his fellow coworkers, since they all have like that kind of thing going on with each other. Like his Hellion, like pig demon work buddy, who he has like that big long um, tripped out conversation with. That guy has a name, and his name is Howie. And Howie refers to everybody as man, right? Hizzard refers to everybody as bruh. And then there was that other guy who referred to everybody as dude. So I kind of want to play with that some more. So I like that idea a lot, where it's just like, no. It would be really funny if like even Reggie doesn't know his name. And this is all like back of my mind writing. Like none of this is actually within or hasn't none of this is explicit within the comic right now, but like Reggie and this dude, the orc dude, they like carpool or like go to school together. Like they both go to the same college. And so it would be kind of funny if like even Reggie is just like, I don't, if you asked me, I don't even know his name. Verb says he looks like a fella. Justin Gillespie says I like that. I might have to go with this because this is a very funny idea. Just like never referred to him by name. And there could be some pretty good humor out of that. I like it a lot. So anyway, that's how this panel's going. Actually, this page is going pretty well. I had some apprehension about it because there's a lot of background detail. And usually when I'm drawing like pages where there's like a ton of background detail, I just like my brain like fades out and I go like I don't know if I'm going to be able to like do this in enough time or like this might be too difficult or whatever, but I ended up like just kind of putting my head to the grindstone on this one and have gotten it to a point where I'm like, okay, I think I can get it all done in enough time. I think it'll work out. But yeah, I fella. See, I don't know if I could see maybe that's the joke I need to go with is like everybody who meets them, they just have a different thing. Like, oh, hey guy, hey fella, hey there, it's you. If I don't know how much I'm going to expand on this character, but this has given me inspiration for sure for what I could do if I expand on like Loretta and her roommates. Justin says, I have been curious, what kind of schedule do you have to keep for chapters? Is it self-set or company set? Well, so that's a multi-tiered answer. For Trailer Park Warlock, it was company set sort of. And by that I mean the way that that worked was once I was like contracted with Webtoon to make Trailer Park Warlock, the way it worked was Webtoon was like, okay, what we need you to do is we just need you to like make enough episodes so that we have enough of a buffer before you start the season. And then once that started, we want you to like do at least one episode a week. So to keep up with the release schedule, basically, you know. And by the way, it's not like they expected me to be able to do more than once a week, right? Like that's basically impossible. The way that they have it set up where it's like we'll give you enough room, and I'm going to go further into that because it's not quite as cutthroat as I'm about to make it sound. We'll give you enough room that you know you can get enough buffer set up. Usually it's about 12 episodes. Or at least it was 12 episodes. I don't know if that's changed. I have no clue. And they were like 12 episodes of buffer. And then your pace for that is like every episode needs to be at least, at that time they said 35 to 45 panels. Now, like in season 2, when I was writing Trailer Park Warlock, I made every episode about 35 panels. I went with the minimum of like what they said was acceptable. And then like Webtoon put pressure on me to sort of change that for various reasons, and one of the main reason was I was dropping off a lot of readership. Which okay, you know, there were creative decisions I made during that season that impacted the readership, and so Webtoon was like asking me to respond to that in some way. But later on, like I think that was season 3. Yeah, seasons 3 through 5. Seasons 3 through 5, I changed it up and extended out and went. My minimum generally was more 40 to. It depended on the episode. Some episodes were like 40, others were like 45, and then others were like 50, sometimes 60. It depended on how much stuff I needed to get done, right? Like how much of the story I needed to have completed in that episode. Because after midway through season 3, I had an episode cap. Because my editor was like, we have to have an idea of like when you're finished with this. We can't just perpetually go on with it. So please give us your episode cap, and we will work with you on it. And so around that time, I was like, okay, let's do 61 episodes from here. I think I can wrap it all up. And so that was what influenced that change in the episode length. Because I always had it in the back of my mind, like, okay, I know pretty well how this is paced out, and how I can meet that pace. So that was why you would see like a lot of those later episodes, they get longer and longer and longer because I'm basically trying to maximize my space that I have available to work with. So that was Trailer Park Warlock, and I should also mention, like I mean those later seasons I started blowing deadlines all the time because for very obvious reasons, right? Like it's very difficult to keep up with that pace when you're extended out. Like I could do 35 panels a week pretty easy. I say pretty easy. Like they were very full weeks, right? And it was not like I took breaks necessarily. I mean, I worked every day when I was doing season 2. And I mean that doubly so on after, but like I liked my writing process for season 2 because I was able to I knew like Friday, I knew I was always going to be pretty much done. So like Friday and Saturday were like this is my break time. So like Friday night I would just like not really party, but just like go and hang out with friends and like do something to kind of chill out. Um I mean, and this was during the pandemic, so like chilling out was like very limited, but I was able to at least get out and do some things and just like sort of detach, from the writing process for a second. And then Saturday would be generally like a writing day. So like I would go to a coffee shop and do thumbnails and write, which usually took about I don't know, it was like a 2 hour, 3 hour process. And then I would like lay out panels, and that would be like kind of an easy day. And then Sunday onward, it was just like get everything done, as like quickly as I could, or as best as I could, given my limitations, right? And so that was like the general pace of Trailer Park Warlock. Okay, so that was all Trailer Park Warlock, right? Now for the Legend of Redneck, this is on Webtoon Canvas because I'm just self-publishing this basically. Like I'm not working with Webtoon on this part, which is an additional part of my frustration, right? In what I was originally referencing to, my pace on Legend of Redneck is different because this is designed to be a bit of an easier comic strip to make. Like I designed it to be a better pace for myself in my work week so I can actually have weekends. And so I can also like focus on side hustles or like work that makes me money. Cuz like this is I'm some of the money that I do make a little bit of money through Patreon, but like other than that, this is pretty much pro bono, like doing this story right now. Um, and so that's part of my frustration with Webtoon on the super likes thing because I'm like, this could help me if you could like, come on, man. But anyway, so going back to your original question on like what the pacing is like or what the schedule is like, Legend of Redneck, one fantastic schedule because I pretty much I work definitely Monday through Friday, and it's a little bit of a slower work schedule than with Trailer Park Warlock because Trailer Park Warlock was like um it was 10 in the morning till about 2 in the morning. So 10 a.m. to 2 a.m. straight. Just straight. Like I mean I would take breaks to like eat lunch and maybe I would like exercise if I had the opportunity to do that, but and maybe I played a little League of Legends here and there when I had a chance, but like generally it was just straight just in front of the computer 10 a.m. to 2 a.m. It was a pretty intense work schedule. This one is different. This one is like 10 a.m. to about 6 ish. It depends on the day, but it's a lot more lenient. Like it's a lot more lenient, which is why I'm enjoying this story a lot. Not that I didn't. I love Trailer Park Warlock. I have deep feelings about that story, but it was also just I don't want to do that work schedule ever again if I can. Um, I'm gonna because Justin had said a couple other things I want to catch up on. Justin says, "Oof, I love the ending for TBW, but I will say I'm a little sad that they tried to kind of rush you on it." Yeah, I mean I made it work as best as I could. There's a part of me that's kind of glad it ended the way it did because I think it would have gotten. I think I would have gotten unfocused had I kept going in the direction that I was going like for forever. Like I don't know if that's really a good thing for story writing. I think it's good for stories to have definitive endings, and at that time, I just kind of wanted to keep pushing it out further and further. That's me trying to like find some silver lining, right, and all that. Um, Yeah, and then thanks, Justin, about the at least I was able to get rest in, right? And then you also say, fam, that's a lot. I love Trailer Park Warlock, but I hate you had to go through that. You know, the thing is like at that time, I was willing to. You know, at that time, like it didn't really occur to me that it was even an issue. And then, curiously enough, what happened is towards the end of the last season of Trailer Park Warlock, like I started having a lot of body pain stuff happen. Like I started having a lot of back issues and shoulder issues and like all kinds of tension popping up and just like my body was in a wreck, you know. And so that for me like that was like one of those signals where I'm like, okay, I need to figure out if I'm going to keep doing this. I'm going to need to figure out like what is my way forward so I don't just like ruin my body because look, this is kind of a public secret, I feel like, in some way. But if you look at the track record of for the lifespans of cartoonists, it is not good. And by cartoonists, I also mean like mangaka, like anybody who works in comics, anybody who works in like generally like graphic arts. It's it is a horrifying track record. Like it is terrible. Um, and I was pretty aware of this early on when I went to art school because I had so many. Um, Justin says, "R.I.P. Akira Toriyama." Yeah, you're right. And what's funny is, I mean, Toriyama is even on the further outside of like that short lifespan. Because I think he was in his 60s. Maybe I'm wrong. I thought he was in his 60s, but he might not have been. Um, but anyway, I was pretty aware of that pretty early on, but the way that I was aware of it is different from how I'm aware of it now, which is that um, I had so many classmates who just did not, they just would not get sleep. Like they would just stay up working these all nighters, largely because they probably also had a day job, you know, and couldn't like they couldn't fit in the time to do their work during the day, so they just like would crank out projects uh, you know, between that thin line of time that they would have probably between I don't know 8 p.m. to like 3 a.m. right? So I would see that and I would go, yeah, I don't want to. If I can avoid that, I'm gonna try and do that because it's one thing, you know. I don't know. It's one thing if you're an artist and like you're having issues with finances. It's a whole other thing if you're an artist and you're having issues with your health. Because I do kind of stick to that idea of like health is wealth. And so for me, I was like, I'm going to try and figure out how to negotiate for myself in my life, like how I'm some way to make sure that like my health is as best as I can keep it. Now that I haven't always like I mean there have been periods in my life where that was not the case. And you know, as I was kind of referring to previously, I'm coming out of a recent period like that because I was throwing myself so full in on making Trailer Park Warlock. And like I don't have any regrets about it, but I do also see, you know, had I continued on that cycle, um, you know, things could have gotten a lot worse. So that's why I can't help but sort of look at how all that ended up panning out as sort of a weird blessing in disguise. Like Webtoon sort of drawing the like endpoint for me a lot sooner than I wanted probably was a good thing for my overall health. Um, Probably was a good thing for like my overall just quality of life. Because like I said, like I don't know, working on Legend of Redneck, like um, this is just a much less of a struggle to make, in the sense of it's not wearing me down in the same way that Trailer Park Warlock did. And what's funny about Trailer Park Warlock is I think there was like such a huge spike of intense creativity coming all at once that I was just trying to ride that wave, right? As long as I could. And I rode it all the way to the end, right? And then kind of banged myself up from it. This is more like, this is less of a killer wave or a rogue wave or whatever. I don't know where I'm trying to go with this metaphor, but like, this is a much more manageable creative wave. And I think that that's a good thing, right? Like, I think that that's a good thing. And I think that writing in the future, I want to sort of stick more with a creative cycle that is more in line with this rather than the like Webtoon cycle of we just want you to like, you know, make your dream project, but we also want to make sure that you're a crater of a human being when it's all said and done. And that's something that I've actually had to really kind of come to terms with. That reality over the last couple, like over the last year, because you know, like I tried to make it work out with Trailer Park Warlock. I tried to make it work out as best as I could, but even as best as I could do it, it was still, you know, like I was saying, it was still pretty hard on me. And so, you know, that for me is like take a step back, look at sort of like what's happened, how can you do it for yourself better, and forget Webtoon, right? Forget like whatever publisher thinks that should be your pace or whatever. They don't know. They just want output. They just want like constant output, right? Macabre Gentleman says, well, I'm glad it led to good then. Always better when creativity and good health can meet. More whimsical of a wave, perhaps? Yeah, I think it's definitely more whimsical of a wave. It definitely is right now because it's allowed me to do a couple of other things that are more like research for future projects. Also, just like life stuff, you know, like just like going out and meeting people and not being a hermit and like having a life, which is kind of nice, right? Um, it's weird because I talk to a lot of Webtoon creators and they really want to be signed with Webtoon, and like there's a lot of arguments around the for and against, and a lot of people have arguments against that I don't totally agree with. When you hear people say like, oh, they're going to steal your rights and all this other stuff, look, unless like their contracts have totally changed, which maybe it has, if their contracts have totally changed, they're not going to take all your rights. But maybe their contracts have totally changed and I'm completely wrong. I don't know. My complaints about Webtoon are largely have to do with my complaints with the public, like the periodical publishing industry in general. And what do I mean by that statement, right? That includes journalism, that includes magazines, that includes online journalism, that includes anything where there's a regular, like, weekly schedule. It is a brutal schedule, and honestly, like, I don't philosophically believe in this idea, but if I were king of the world, I would just say, never again. Like, we just shouldn't we shouldn't allow people to even consider that possibility, and just let good quality art and information come out at the pace that it takes for it to come out, instead of like forcing it out, you know, which is what all these companies do. Like, they just force it out like it's a frickin' fire hose, Like they can just like, tell people to um, bend over and just like puke out their guts and then just be like, here's a bit of a pittance for it, right? So anyway, my attitude around my creativity, my attitude around sort of like writing and like wanting to be a writer as a career or an author as a career, whatever you want to, however you want to describe it, has changed a lot since then because I'm not, that's the thing is like, I'm not anti publisher or even necessarily anti corporate. It's just like, they just are so addicted to results that they don't see what they're doing or they don't care, right? Whichever. I don't. To me, it's almost like irrelevant which one it is. Um, but they just don't care that they're like they burn out all their artists. They don't care that like you know they're ultimately digging their own hole too, which is to me that's the most ironic part of it is these companies that do these practices are like standardize these practices don't recognize that they're just digging their own hole ultimately because people find out what's going on. People like get information on this stuff. Artists leave. um I don't know, like I don't understand 100% why, and it's probably different depending on the cultural context. Like for whatever reason, the like Japanese authors and Korean authors, they just burden it. I don't really know why. I mean, the Japanese work ethic is like, I don't have it. That's what that is. I don't have it. I don't. I don't take great pride in like working till midnight, and not sleeping and like all that stuff. It's just not a feeling that I have. For whatever reason, there are people in the world who do have that. And I used to have a lot of great internal conflict about that, like, oh, well, maybe I should be that way. And now I'm just like, no, I don't, I'm not that way. Like, I just don't. Whatever gene that is, or whatever, like, gumption or like force of will or whatever that is, that's not me. Like, it's just, there's a point in everybody's life where they have to like come to terms with like who they are deep inside. And I really came to terms with that like after finishing Trailer Park Warlock, where it's like I'm not that kind of workhorse. I have workhorse tendencies, but Macabre Gentleman says, "Gotta drive home from work. Have a great rest of your stream day." Thank you. Hope you have a nice and pleasant drive home and a nice rest of your day, your evening, what have you. Thanks for hanging out. So anyway, like I, going back to what Macabre Gentleman was talking about with regards to Akira Toriyama, like that's pretty much par for the course for mangaka. Like they don't sleep, they have crazy schedules. Um, all they do is constantly work, and then on top of that, they have to do publicity stuff and whatnot. Like, of course, it doesn't surprise me that he passes away at a fairly. Actually, I want to check. Excuse me. I want to check real quick. How old was he? Akira Toriyama. Oh, 68. This is so cynical, I guess. Or this is like I don't know. I look at 68. I'm like, oh, that's actually pretty old. That's like ancient from comic creators. Um, Like for context, Osamu Tezuka, I think he was only like 62. He wasn't that old, but he was doing overtime for sure. I mean, so anyway, rest in peace, Akira Toriyama, one of the greats. But he got to live a pretty long time for a comic creator, I'm gonna say. Um, well, what's also interesting is you can compare that also to like musicians too. A lot of musicians don't live that long. Um, I mean, Akira Toriyama only lived to be like 1 year younger than David Bowie when he passed. David Bowie only made it to like 69. I say only. Like, I don't know, being a world class musician, wealthy and famous till the age of 69 ain't a bad deal, you know. Whereas a lot of animators, and I'm going to use United States as the reference point because I don't actually know what the case is around the rest of the world. But in the U.S., you have animators, you have comic artists who, like, they pass at around like 40. Like I had a bunch of my professors in art school who passed in their 50s, like late 50s, for various reasons, right? But like, I mean, I ain't no dummy. I know that it had to do something with their sleep schedule. They just didn't get enough sleep. That was wrecking their body. They were constantly working. And also, for some reason, animation and comics tends to attract workaholic types. And so that sort of feeds back into that culture, right? Where you just see like this constant output and there's never any sort of like break to rest and put back into the creative process. And you even kind of see it reinforced where you have a lot of artists who are just like, well, if you go a day without creating, like you're gonna really feel it when you go back to the drawing board. And I'm like, at this point in my life, I'm like, no, that's BS. I don't believe that at all. Take a break. If you're an artist, take a break. You need it, and you will thank yourself for taking that break. And so I think that, if I wanted to speculate further on that, I would say part of that is that a lot of artists have this like people pleaser mentality. They really want affection, they really want love, and they've figured out that they can get a lot of affection and love if they keep making stuff, not realizing that there are other ways of getting affection and love that don't just have to do with their creative output. Oh, I got lime. Sorry. Put a lime in my water bottle. But what was I saying? So anyway, because of this, you will see many artists, and not just comic artists, not just like writers, not just like the the low like the low rungs on the ladder. You will see many, 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 many artists just pour themselves into their work because that's the only way that they can like imagine getting that attention and that love that they're probably starved for. Like, I know that I have suffered from this in the past. Like, I know that that's like something that has been a part of my like mental landscape. Which is, it creates sort of a weird moment because there was this moment where I was starting to and I still have these moments every once in a while where I was starting to look at my creativity as like maybe this is just like a desperate cry for help. And like maybe this isn't, what if this isn't healthy, right? And that took a while, and I'm still working through it somewhat because my new phase now is like kind of having come to terms with that, and so now reassessing, like, okay, why do I do this now? If I understand and recognize for myself that I was kind of always doing this to get attention and acceptance and love and all this other stuff, like, what is the reason to keep doing it? And it is becoming more about because I just really love the work, right? Because I really enjoy the stories that I create. Because I want to see them made, I want to see where they go. My priorities are changing sort of as a creative person or as a writer or whatever you want to say. I think it's if you're a creative person, I think it's important that you kind of go through that period, right? Because it allows you it's really deep soul searching stuff. And I think that it can also be very useful from a perspective of like giving you inspiration too. But it's a little frightening initially because you're going to have these moments where it's like, hold on, I want to check something. Okay. You're going to have these moments where it's like, suddenly everything's up for question. Like I said, like I was kind of going through this moment of like, why am I, like, should I keep doing this? And like I said, sometimes I still have those moments. Because in the back of my head, I'm like, well, I could make a lot more money doing something different and like spending more of my time doing other things. Like I could, you know, X and X and X, right? Point is, everybody has to kind of like figure out for themselves what is the appropriate way to spend your time and your resources on your creative endeavors. And as much as a society, we want to praise creative people, for their output, for their devotion and their commitment to something. We never really acknowledge that there's this other side of it, which is or which can be, it doesn't have to be, this doesn't have to be the case, but which can be very negative and very destructive. Because, like I said, a lot of comic artists, a lot of cartoonists, a lot of animators, video game designers, like a lot of these people are kind of going through a slow self-destruction while they're creating like all this brilliant artwork. And I don't think that's a good thing. Like I know that like a lot of people wonder why you have artists who totally do like horrible things or like act out or whatever, and people never pay attention to the fact that, well, maybe there are aspects of their life that aren't that great, and like the art that you love might come from that not greatness, that deep sad place that like they're just trying to figure out how to deal with it. And I don't know, it's a real shame, right? I don't know how else to put that. It's a real shame. um, I think it's easy to look at artists as just this like divine font of creativity and inspiration and blah blah blah. Well, they're still human beings. They still have their own problems. They still like have to get up in the morning and take a crap like everybody else, right? Like all of those gifts that they have or talent or whatever, that however you look at it, it doesn't come out of nowhere. It comes out of something. And a lot of times that something is kind of dark or kind of sad or kind of, kind of not great. So, for me, like I've had some stuff, right? Everybody does, and everybody deals with it differently. But the point is, I think the point is, or the point I'm trying to get across anyway, I might wrap it up here in a second. The point I'm trying to get across is if you are a creative person and you are having these kind of struggles, like I just want to remind you, like, you're more than just that one identity. You're more than just that one identity of being an artist. You are also, to somebody, you may be a son or a daughter. Um, you may be a friend to somebody. You may be, you know, somebody's lover, somebody's like companion, somebody's parent. Um, you may be somebody that, means the world to somebody else and has nothing to do with what you're creating. Nothing to do at all with it. Which is really funny because a lot of artists, like, a lot of artists sort of get sad, when friends or family or whatever don't pay attention to their work. And I'm like, it's a blessing in disguise. That means that they find value in you outside of just your work. And I understand that desire to like want to have that validated. But like I said, you gotta find you have to realize within yourself, like there are more aspects to your identity, more aspects to sort of like your being that have more to do than with just that one part of you. And while that, while that one creative part of you may be super critical, like you might be an artist who's making tons of money from your art. You may have like met the love of your life because they found your work, or you may have a great community from it, or whatever. But that work isn't 100% you. It's a percentage, but it's not 100%. Um, and I would just like invite all the artists out there and anybody else, really, honestly, this applies to everybody, to do that kind of deep searching where you go, okay, but like, what are the other aspects of myself outside of all that stuff? Like if tomorrow something terrible happened and I just like was unable to be creative anymore, or you know picking, like, I don't know, you lose a limb, or like you have some terrible accident, or I don't know, any number of things can happen. Life's crazy. What are the things about who are the people, I should say, maybe I should put it that way. Who are the people who would show up for you regardless, right? What are the aspects of yourself that are still just as lovable even without those things there, right? Because that becomes more important as you get older. That becomes more important as you sort of like have more experience being creative and kind of getting those victories under your belt. Those victories don't necessarily matter as much as the aspects that are. I wish I had a proper word to use to describe what I'm trying to say, but like there are aspects of your being that are valuable regardless of how like society considers or thinks of value. And so I think it's important for every person at some point in their life to sort of become aware of those aspects so that they don't kind of get pulled into the BS of the world that wants to make them believe the idea that like you're only your job. you're only, this or that identity. There's more to it than that. So anyway, I might wrap it up. Unless anybody else has anything to say in the chat, I will wait a couple moments. If anybody has any questions they want answered or any comments. But other than that, I'm going to leave y'all in a moment here. Maybe I'll finish out this panel. But like I said, I'm happy to respond to anything anybody has to say. So yeah, that's how my day's been going. That's how my month's been going. It's been kind of a wild month. I've got kind of a wild weekend coming ahead. About to take a master class for a thing I don't really want to go into too much detail about yet. Largely because it's not, I don't know, it's something that's kind of important to me, but I don't know if anybody else would care. But I might talk about it once I've taken the class and sort of integrated everything that I'm going to go through, because there's a lot of meditation and a lot of other stuff. It's going to be kind of a big thing. It's going to be kind of a thing. I really like Loretta a lot as a character, and I kind of get the sense that not that many people. I don't know, like, she's not that many people's favorite character. Um, like, everybody likes Judy, right? Which is fair, because Judy's a great character. But I kind of feel like to me, I look at the relationship of Judy and Loretta as like kind of sweet and salty. And so I don't think Judy's sweetness would land as well without Loretta's saltiness to help contrast. And that's part of the reason why I like Loretta as a character. There are many reasons. That's one reason. Oops. But I think part of it is that Loretta might be too strong of a vibe for a lot of people. She does come off pretty strong. A little bit much. Which is why I decided to have her as a character, because I wanted to write somebody that was challenging for me and sort of outside of my comfort zone. who's like has the capacity for like supportiveness and being caring, but is also kind of a hot mess. It's just like that kind of character, like, oh God, help her. I'm trying to figure out if I want to hand letter this title or do it in a font. I guess I'm going to hand letter. I'm not 100% competent at hand lettering. I was going to serif it, but I changed my mind. I need to center this lower part of the title better. Not like that was that challenging. But I'm just saying, it need to be done. Oh yeah. And then finish Loretta's hair. Alright, I think that's it for that panel. Thanks for hanging out, y'all. I'm gonna leave it at that. And I hope y'all have a great rest of your evening, rest of your day, what have you. We will talk again soon. And see you later. All right, bye.